Excellent. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. I greatly appreciate it. Originally, I was going to come on here and just talk to you about what we're doing in the MLOps community, some of the great initiatives we've got going on. But then I figured since I am kind of at the center of this and I get to see and speak with so many cool people that are doing MLOps on a daily basis, whether that's in the community Slack or on our different podcast episodes, I might as well synthesize some of these learnings that I've had and try and articulate them into something that you all can digest and take home as little bite-sized lightning talk chats. So, in case you do not know who I am, my name is Demetrios Brinkman. I am the initiator of the MLOps community. I've got absolutely nothing to sell you except for a little community camaraderie. I'll give you a call to action at the end of this chat. And since I figured you're going to be having enough diagrams and slides for the next couple hours, this is all you're going to see for the next 8.39 minutes. You get to look at my face before we jump into the next talk, where I can almost guarantee you're going to get a PowerPoint. All right, let's move on and let's talk about some of my key learnings. Given the nature of this conference, I wanted to talk a little bit about what I've learned around testing for machine learning and just testing in general in MLOps. We can talk about unit tests, integration tests, functional tests, you name it. All different kinds of tests you're probably going to be hearing for the rest of the day. If there's one thing that we can all agree on, though, that is that testing is unsexy. The last thing that a data scientist or a machine learning engineer wants to hear is that they need to write more tests. And I'm here to advocate that we go out and we change the culture around testing, and we change the culture around this idea that it is okay in machine learning to ship things that fail, to put something out there and then see what happens. And if something bad happens, then we come back, we roll it back, and we try it again. Machine learning is hard. We know that. We've heard it, but that is not an excuse. And just because it is hard, we cannot say that we're going to let whatever go out into the wild. You know what else is hard? Flying a hunk of metal around the rock that is spinning in space and is being manipulated by all kinds of gravitational pulls. That's hard, but we've got the FAA in place and regulations in place so that when we go on a plane, we don't die and we don't think, oh, yeah, flying is hard, so who knows if we're going to make it home on this last plane. Now, what we're really shooting for is reliability. I'm sure you're going to hear everyone say that, but I am going to say something that hopefully I'm not going to get cut off for, and that is do not rely too much on your monitoring solution. So what I'm saying is that you want to make sure that the models are reliable from the start before you release them into the wild. The monitoring solution should be there because things go wrong, but do not rely on it too much because, again, what I'm advocating for is that we change the culture around this. We make sure that we have the processes in place and we are setting things up correctly. Last thing I want to mention about tests before we move on is that when you are creating proper testing, it serves as documentation. It serves as just something that are like breadcrumbs for the other engineers or the other stakeholders that are working on the project. Because as you test, the more you test, it gives you this picture of what was shrouded in mystery. Now you know, okay, when something starts to fail, do I need more data? Do I need better quality data? Do I need to tune the model more? What do I need? Well, proper tests in place will give you that. And if you look at a list of test cases and the history of how things happened, this gives you the visibility into what your machine learning project is. And it also helps you, because I imagine many of you have gone through this, it protects you if the stakeholder is not around when the model breaks. So if the stakeholder that created that model is no longer around or anywhere to be seen, and they're not picking up their phone when you call them, well, good testing can help protect you against that. So that is all I have on tests. I also want to get into what I feel particularly excited about also, which is knowing thyself. That's the name that I've given it. And this stems from so many conversations coming up in Slack where people post something and they say, you know what? I was reading this Google article and I saw this. What do you think of my machine learning stack? And they give whatever the maturity level number 1 or 2 or whatever it is, the newest hyped article that has come out recently. And I appreciate that people are trying to start with these foundational fundamentals in mind. I can really see that that is crucial as we move forward, but I also ask you to know what is the most important thing for your use case. Let's talk about that a little more and let's dive into it, because you have to understand that if you're going for time to deployment, if that is what is fundamentally important for you and you just want to get those models out as fast as possible, and you say, Gardner, you don't know what you're talking about. I can get my models out in 3 days, not 3 months. This is some crap. Whatever you were saying 2 years ago, it's just a bunch of bullshit. Well, if that's your use case, great. If that's really going to move the needle, perfect. But if you're in healthcare and your model only gets to go out after it's been approved by the FDA, and that is once every 18 months, well, I guess you're not going to be optimizing for time to deployment. I understand this is a very, very extreme example, and everybody's probably thinking like, I would never do that. But let's take it more granular and think about that when you are making your design decisions, when you are looking at the trade-offs. I really encourage you. There are so many nuances, and go back to what is it that we are optimizing for. And that brings me to the final point, which is talking about how close machine learning is to the business. We cannot consider ourselves as machine learning engineers, even as data scientists, anyone who is doing MLOps or touches MLOps, you should not think of yourself as only technical, because machine learning is so close. It just plays up against the business. And this is something that when we just had this meetup in London, I came away with. We were talking about it. It was actually in real life. It was incredible. Loved it. And I came away with this huge takeaway, which is that you have to be disciplined about what you are doing and make sure that it is providing value for the company. Don't just play with that shiny new toy, or as some have dubbed it, resume-driven development. How many stories have we heard about teams spending non-trivial amounts of time to create their machine learning? It might be a model, it might be a whole project, it might be end-to-end, but they've spent time and then they put it out there and they show it to the rest of the business and they realize that it did absolutely nothing to affect the bottom line. So, how can we avoid this? Try to make sure that you tie whatever you are working on to some number that the company cares about, and really monitor that number. Are you moving the needle? Does that matter? And you'll see if your project actually has business value. And again, I stress this, that you are not just technical, you are doing things that are so close to the business You should not look at what you are doing as only technical and be able to start asking the right questions. Start being able to evaluate these different data points. Last but not least, the cultural part about MLOps. It shares many things with DevOps, and I would be remiss if I did not say that. I just want to leave you with an incredible quote that I had from a guest on the community podcast. Julian said that he dreams of having technical problems. Why is that? Because a technical problem is much easier to change than a processes problem. Tech problems are easier to change than processes. And that is all I've got. With great power comes great responsibility. I am sure we are forging a beautiful new world together. I'm excited to have you all join me in the community. Come say hi and look at all these different projects we've got going on in here. There's every kind of thing that you could think of. If you want to do this resume-driven development, we've got engineering labs, aka hackathons that you can do. If you want to just talk to other people about your stack decisions, we've also got all kinds of stuff that you can do there. Or if you want to talk about the cultural side, guess what? You can do that here. So without further ado, I will leave you to the rest of the conference. Enjoy and farewell.